Hi, this is Hans from Request Music, and I wanted to have a look at how my Formant is coming up and do some slight tutorial on it, but wanted to show you how it holds up when comparing it to the Model D synthesizer from Moog itself that they created, which I downloaded on my Mac here. So, for instance, this is giving a sound like this at the moment. Let me see. As you can see, there's nothing in the in voltage modular itself at the moment. So this is all the Moog. So when I want to rebuild that kind of stuff, I'll use my Formant synthesizer, which I can get to by doing F underscore and get all of the modules that I have on my machine at the moment. I think there's about 17 or so in them. And what I obvious will need, I'll try to do some sort of comparison by overlaying parts of it like this, because obviously this is what I have to deal with from the Moog. So, and the Mini Moog has 3 oscillators, so I'll need 3 oscillators to do this, of course. So I'll drag 3 oscillators in, and auto align this to the left. I need 3 oscillators, I need a filter, and obviously need a VCA and an ADSR, and possibly some glide and possibly effects. So first of all, let's go over the basics. And so I need the filter, and I need something like, and I most of the time I do that in a separate cabinet. I do have the smaller modules there, so I'll drag my control voltage stuff to the bottom, so I have all of the modules for myself on the top at the moment. Won't be needing Perform at all, so just got this at the bottom, and create an extra cabinet where where I put the other stuff in. So I need this glide module that I have to do the portamento kind of stuff that is in any sound that I try to mimic from the Moog. So I've got my glide in there. I'll put an ADSR in there, and I'll put a VCA. I'll put 2 ADSRs in there because I want one for my VCA and I want one for my filters. So 2 ADSRs. Oh, I already had 2 in there. I need a VCA in there, and I added the COM module, which is actually just a basic final line with some bass treble and middle and an overall volume. So I need that, and I'll add some reverb in there to have it sound a bit better. So first of all, I'll obviously have to connect my my glide, or sorry, my pitch output from the source into the glide, so I can decide which sound I wanted to be gliding. But I'll take every one of those VCOs there as well at the moment. So I take my output from the glide module and go into my external control voltage, which is a bit different, of course, because the Formant as I'm creating it now is not a semi-modular machine, because it's not connected on the back straight away, so I have to do it myself. So that's why the pitch is going into the external control voltage, and the switch that is here, because this is a switch which gives you a bit more feedback than was available in the original. That's why I changed all of the switches that were in the original Formant into these LED kind of things, so you can see what is actually switched on. So I've got it connected to the external control voltage, so that means that it will be responding to my pitch, of course, and if I don't want that, I'll just switch that off, and it can still be connected, but it will not respond that way. Sorry. Okay, so I've got my pitch control in there. I need my gates to come from the gate over there, and the output of the ADSR is going into my envelope in um, as well. There was no actual input for that in the VCF on the Formant, and now it's connected there so that the envelope here is responding to that. And actually the envelope which is in here has a positive and a negative side, so you can actually sort of close the filter instead. So first of all, let's connect it up this way, and I'll connect the output of the VCF, and of course I need to have some input, so I'll connect those VCOs up to my filter, and I'm just doing it mono at the moment, but I'm using my reverb as first of all, let's go into the VCA, so I'll be able to switch that to define the overall sound by using the ADSR envelope, and then go from the output of this into my reverb, switch on my reverb, and take the outputs, go into the stereo COM, which is here, and the COM then goes into my output. So I should be having sound. Let's dial this back so I'm sure that I get everything up and working. So filter switched on. So obviously it's at the moment it's a sine wave which is switched on, and I'll turn back the reverb. So I only have this, and it's pretty low, but obviously I can change that around and dial up all of the separate sounds there. So obviously this is just a normal sine wave at the moment. So now I start and sort of look at what the Moog is doing, because all of the waves are in here, and I can see that these are saw waves for everything. This is this is the saw wave, or actually it's sort of a, let's see, I'll see if I can zoom in a bit. Oh, it's actually the spaced saw wave, which is a little bit brighter than that, and it's all gone back to 16, and there's a bit of tuning offset between all of the oscillators, and I have a look at the overall volume settings and that kind of stuff, and then obviously into the cutoff frequencies and that kind of thing. So first of all, I'll switch into the spaced sawtooth, which is the one on the left top there. So that sounds a bit different, of course, than already, and they need to be lower. So let's compare. So I'll dial this up a bit. These are, and I don't know why that is. I sometimes have some offset in the Model D. The pitch for the Formant is good, so I have no idea what actually is is causing that difference between the Moog. I didn't have it yesterday, but had it a day before. So sometimes some strange stuff is happening. So at least it's obviously lower than this, and there's less filtering. So let's lower these. So I'll take that one down an octave, and I'll take this one down an octave, -1, and I'll take this down an octave. So I've got this. Well, then, as said, I'll dial this back, and I'll first of all change the offset between those. So something like that, and obviously there is some delay in there, and I think there's some reverb in there as well. So let's dial the Formant back again, and dial this up and see. So Then it's just a matter of going over some of the settings. As I said, I will have to look at the filter settings and obviously the attack decay and so on. And the Minimoog is working with a slightly different ADS actually. It doesn't have a release stage, so it works with attack and decay, and the sustain is at some level. And the attack actually is pretty low on this one. But I see, yeah, the contour is the filter emphasis, which is the Q, is dialed up, but the actual attack is not dialed up. So it's actually only the cutoff frequency that is doing its part, and the loudness, so the VCA, is doing its part, which actually is just full sustain. So if I want to mimic that, all I have to do is, instead of using my my setting for my filter here, which is the envelope, I can actually dial that back and just dial the this up, and then obviously I need to control my VCA, and this was not yet connected, so I'll dial this up, and if I press this button, it actually responds. So it responds to that ADSR. So now it's doing exactly what we want. And the only other thing is that I have to look at what the emphasis, which is the Q factor, was set to, which is about 3/4. So I'll go dial this up a bit, and which already does that part. And of course I'll need to. That's a bit too much, perhaps. Something like this, and so yeah, that should already be doing its part quite well. If I wanted to have some glide, because I'm not quite sure, yeah, there's slightly some glide in there, so I'll dial that in as well. Something like this, and maybe have it a bit less volume here. So now I do want some reverb in there, and I heard some delay in there as well, so I'll take the delay in, and instead of going straight to the reverb with my VCA, I'll go into my delay first, and I'll just take one input, but I'll use two outputs, so I have my stereo delay. So, and obviously there's a wet control and a normal overall output control. So got something like this, and then the time obviously can be set at the top, and I'll dial some reverb in as well. And let's sort of compare what we have so far and in how far it. This is a bit darker. And well, that's the advantage of having obviously the COM in there, because let's dial this up again. So I've got dialed a bit more bass in, and I took the treble out, and so something like that. And what was it called? Might as well. Well, let's just save it, and I'm going into my Formant, and I'll call it. Well, no, we'll not give it a full name, but I've got a couple of sounds that I already did with this Minimoog kind of setting, so I'll just go over them, part of them. And I had some more stuff in here than I had in the one that I created now, because this was sort of the setup that I mimicked from the video that I had earlier on the web from Grant or from forgot his name, the other guy. So there's a couple of those in there. So you hear that it's quite capable of creating different kind of sounds. That was something, and funk kind of. And what do you have here? Oops, hang on, that was the wrong side. Keith Emerson. Something like that. And so yeah, there's a couple of sounds that I already created. Let's have one more try, shall we? Let's see what I have here. I'll have to dial this one back, of course, because otherwise I get both my Formant and the sound from the Model D. Why didn't it go back all the way? So a theremin. So there's a longer slide and that kind of stuff in there. And let's have a look at what they use. They use a square wave, and it's filtered. It has some amount of contour, as they call it, or the envelope settings. Some emphasis, and there obviously the ADR or the ADS works on the cutoff frequency, and looking at the loudness is still sort of over going everything, and glide is quite up, and there's a large setting between these, and I think the last oscillator is at low frequency, so that means that they were able to use that as an LFO, as a low frequency oscillator, to drive the rest. I don't really hear it unless I use my modulation, of course, but I can mimic that as well. So first of all, let's create a new one here, and so I'll take this out, and I actually would need only 2 VCOs in this case, so I'll drag those in and align it again, and as I said, first drag this to the bottom if it works. Come on. Why won't it work? Okay, so I've got 2 VCOs in there, and well, just let's see how far I can get it again. So I need my ADSRs, and I need a filter, of course. Filter in there. 2 ADSRs, and depends on what I want to achieve while making a patch. It might be that I work from left to right, so that means I got my inputs. It's going into the filter, then it would go into VCO, VCA. So I could do something like this and really do it aligned that way. So the 2 VCOs going into the VCF, which is driven by the ADSR, and then going into the VCO, which is driven by the VCA, and so on. So I'll do it that way as well. Obviously, I first of all need my glide, because this is where the pitch is going into. And I could actually also use something like the resonance frequency module, which is actually sort of a parametric equalizer, but I'll have a look at that later. And first of all, go in this way. So I need my pitch going into the glide, so into the input here, and the output goes into the external control of the VCOs, and the VCOs go into my VCF external, which I have to set per default to some value, because now I have to set it every time. It was set to a square, and well, let's have a look at what the settings were. So of course, if I connect the rest, if I connect this up to my external on the VCA and put this into my reverb, and I could have my com at the end, so something like this, and I'll go in there and I'll take my stereo out, and obviously it's already creating some sound. I'll dial that one back and see how much sound I have. Not too much at the moment. I'll put some reverb in there and take up some stuff. There was some contour setting. First of all, let's put the glide up, because something like this, and let's have a look at what the oscillators were set to. The oscillators, one was set to 8 feet and the other one was set at 4 feet, so they're off by an octave. So let's dial this up to see. So the basic sound of course is not so bad, and this one should be up an octave. And let's see how strong they were. Both were at full volume. So, well, I could dial this up, but this is great as it is. Let's have a look at the filter. So, filter should be set at somewhere around here. That's what I take from this. Contour settings, or that would be, and I'm working from 0 up to 1 for one side. This one only goes up positive, so I would have to set it accordingly. So something like this. So I'd have to look at this sort of dialed in a 90-degree angle or something to compare that. And obviously I forgot actually to connect my ADSRs yet. So to do that, I need my gate for my ADSR. I need my output of the ADSR going into the envelope for the filter, and the filter needs to be switched on. So I got something like this, and there's also the matter of the ADSR going there. So this also needs a gate, and the gate going out to this, and switch that on. So I have that, and now look at what the rest of the settings were. The attack setting for the filter was quite high, so something like this, and I'm not quite sure. I think that for the Formant, the max setting is about 20 seconds, and I'm not quite sure how high it is for the for this. Let's see if it says that. If you dial it, no, it doesn't, but I think I see something like 10 seconds here. So the Formant goes up a little higher, but let's just set it here first. And since I have to mimic this a bit, I'm using the decay time, which is in there, and I'll dial the sustain level up to 3/4, or yeah, 60 or 70% or something. And for the loudness control for the VCA, it has just everything up, and I'll dial some release in there. And then let's see what we have. Let's see, why don't I have anything? It's just too far up. Let's see. It has more emphasis, so it seems I didn't do anything to that, so it needs to be up there as well. I can tell that the emphasis is also 60% or something. So I'll dial this back again. Go into this. And now the ADSR is a bit on the low side, as I can tell. So I might have to play around with that as a bit, and obviously do something with the effects. And I don't know if there's some delay in there as well, so I can also again take the delay in, take my VCA output into my delay, and I actually only need one there, but at least I need my two then to drive my my reverb. Otherwise, I wouldn't get my stereo ping pong delay. So that's why I do that, and take that one up again. And maybe the glide is still a bit too high. So, and if you wanted to be a bit more usable, you could probably take the attack down a bit, and you can hear that obviously the attack then I need more decay to have it work properly, sort of. So yeah, that kind of thing, and obviously it's filtering um, those two square waves quite a lot, and I don't think there's any offset in between the oscillators, because I could e- easily do something like that. So yeah, well, so something like this, and what is this was called something like a theremin, and this is a bit too soft. And if I wanted to have more sound all the way, I would probably take this up. Then I need some attack, decay, sustain, release. Otherwise, the filter would be opened every time it gets into that VCA. So I only use this. And I might have to increase the second VCO a bit. Yeah, I'll save that in any case, because as when the modules come out, I'll add these presets as well. So theremin. But yeah, so that hopefully gives you some sort of impression of how I work with this. And for instance, I'm obviously I'm only using mono from the synth itself, and then going into the stereo modules like delay and reverb. But if I wanted to have a bit more stereo, I could actually use two VCFs and use, for instance, the panner. Because if let's just dial these back fast, so I have much more attack in the. And if I wanted to do that, I'd probably want to use two VCFs. So I'll just press my Alt key and copy this into a second VCF. I'll use the same ADSR for that, and instead of going in with both VCOs, I'll use one to drive the other. And since I've all dragged this out, I get my same settings for both. So I could actually just use maybe an extra VCA, and I wouldn't need an extra ADSR because I want to drive it the same. But I would at least go in there with my same ADSR settings and use the RVCF to drive this one, and then this one would go into my delay, because now obviously I've got stereo. And then I would use my panner, which is a separate module. So before going into the VCAs, I would actually then use the panner module, which has 9 inputs. The 9 inputs are there because actually I copied the same layout and I wanted not to differ too much from the rest. And I had a mixer, and the mixer has a sort of 3 setups, 3x3, where you've got 3 inputs to work with, which can do a plus, so just add signals, or multiply. There's a switch here, and you can see here that the setting changes. So that's a multiply setting, so you can also use that to ring modulate VCOs, for instance. And the last one is a percentage or a div kind of thing, which is a special kind of computer kind of algorithm that you can use to create different kind of sounds. So I wanted this to have the same layout, so I'll take this out again because I'm not going to use that. So I can now actually just go into the penner instead of going straight into the VCA. So now I'll take the output, which is a stereo out, from this and go into the separate VCAs, and then use my panning, because and so well, let's take a different setting on each of those filters. So I could use this here, and maybe a bit brighter on that side. I'll dial the delay back a bit because so something like this, so you can hear that indeed it's panning it. So doing something like that, and let's shorten this to have a bit different. And of course I could add more modules to it by, for instance, taking a low frequency oscillator and driving the filter cutoff frequency or something like that. So obviously there's a whole lot of things that you can do afterwards, but let's leave it at this, because otherwise the video is getting too long probably. So I'll leave it at this, and I hope it gives you an idea of what you can do with the Formant so far. It will take some time because there's some issues that I have with my MIDI module, but I'll probably solve that within a week or a couple of weeks or something like that. I'm still thinking if there's extra modules that will be getting in there, but then in the end the overall set will contain 17, 18 modules or something like that, and the total set I'll probably sell it for around $90 or $95 or something like that. So per module it's not too much. Obviously it's quite some money to spend in one time, but you've got a whole lot of modules for that. So I'll be back with tutorials in a later stage, and I'll get back to you then. So cheers for now, and hope to be seeing you again. Cheers, bye bye.